There is a form of prison that does not need walls. It accompanies you during work. It sits next to you during meals. It enters the room when the house gets quiet. It remains active even when the person who caused it is far away. This prison begins when someone starts to have too much power over your inner state. A message changes your mood. A delay destroys your peace of mind. A demonstration of affection brings relief. A distancing makes you doubt your own worth. At this point, you don't just like someone anymore. Your mind has begun to depend on that presence to stay in balance. On the outside, everything may seem normal. You continue fulfilling your obligations. You talk to other people. You smile when necessary. You try to keep the routine running. On the inside, there is a constant restlessness. Part of your attention is always directed towards someone. You remember conversations. You interpret silences. You imagine reunions. You create explanations for attitudes you do not understand. You think about what you should have said, what you could have done, and what might still happen. Life keeps moving forward, but your consciousness remains stopped before a person. This is one of the most painful consequences of attachment. You begin to lose yourself while trying not to lose someone. The problem is not in loving. Love is part of the human experience. The difficulty arises when you transform another person into the source of your identity, your security, and your peace. At that moment, affection ceases to be a free choice. It transforms into a necessity, and every exaggerated emotional need carries fear. Fear of being abandoned, fear of being replaced, fear of not receiving another opportunity, fear of returning to your own company. Stoicism does not teach that you should become cold. It does not ask you to eliminate feelings, despise bonds, or live away from everyone. Stoic philosophy teaches a more mature posture. You can love deeply without handing over the government of your mind. You can value a presence without transforming absence into destruction. You can feel nostalgia without obeying every impulse. You can recognize what you lived without remaining chained to the past. Detaching does not mean erasing someone from memory. It means removing that person from the center of your existence. It is recovering authority over your thoughts. It is remembering that your dignity does not depend on reciprocity. It is understanding that no one should receive the power to decide whether or not you will have peace. Perhaps there is someone occupying too much space inside you right now. It could be a person who left, someone who still remains physically close, but emotionally distant. Perhaps it is an undefined relationship, marked by approaches and withdrawals. It could be a story that ended without the explanation you expected. The form changes. The effect is usually similar. Your mind gets trapped trying to resolve something that is not under your control. You expect an answer capable of putting an end to the anguish. You imagine that a final conversation would put everything in its place. You believe that a new demonstration of affection would return your security. But inner freedom does not arrive when the other acts the way you desire. It begins when you stop needing that attitude to remain whole. Before moving forward, leave your like on this video and subscribe to the channel, The Great Stoic. Then write in the comments, "No one dominates me." Also, put the country and city from where you are watching us. This comment is not just a phrase, it represents a decision. By writing it, you register that you no longer wish to hand over your mind to the behavior, approval, or absence of anyone. Other people facing the same battle will also see that they are not alone. What you are going to learn now does not only serve to overcome a relationship, it serves to interrupt a pattern. Because changing the person without changing your own emotional structure only changes the name of the dependency. True liberation occurs when you learn to love without abandoning yourself. Number 1. Accept that you do not control anyone's heart. Suffering becomes heavier when you try to control what was never under your domain. You do not control another person's feeling. You do not control their priorities. You do not decide when someone is going to perceive your worth. You cannot force anyone to stay, mature, or reciprocate. Even so, the attached mind insists on fighting against this reality. You believe you need to find the right words. You try to demonstrate more. You show patience beyond the limit. You become available at any time. You forgive repeated behaviors. You reduce your needs to appear easier to love. Behind all this effort exists a silent hope. If I do everything correctly, this person will not leave. Except that affection is not born from negotiation. True presence does not need to be torn out. Whoever wishes to build something with you participates in the construction. They do not demand that you carry the weight of the relationship alone. The first Stoic discipline of detachment is to separate what depends on you from what belongs to the other. Your choices depend on you. Your posture is in your hands. The limits you establish are part of your responsibility. The attention you offer can also be managed. The feeling, the decision, and the character of the other person are not under your command. When you mix these territories, you lose energy trying to govern a consciousness that is not yours. The mind begins to look for signs in everything. A short answer seems like rejection. A delay seems like a threat. A change of tone transforms into proof of disinterest. A small approach revives an enormous hope. You stop observing the facts and start living surrounded by interpretations. This state is exhausting because it offers no rest. Even when nothing is happening, your imagination produces events. The person may be living normally while you spend hours analyzing a detail that perhaps has no meaning. The more you try to control the other, the less control you maintain over yourself. This inversion is dangerous. You start trying to save a connection and end up abandoning your routine. You lose concentration. You sleep badly. You leave important projects for later. Your body is in one place, but your mind remains waiting for someone else's attitude. The Stoic interrupts this cycle by looking at reality without ornaments. He does not ask only what he wishes to happen. He observes what is happening. Does this person demonstrate reciprocity consistently? Is there clarity? Is there respect? Do actions confirm words? Do you feel secure? Or do you live in a permanent state of interpretation? Lucidity does not mean pessimism. It means rejecting fantasies that demand your peace as food. A healthy relationship does not force you to constantly investigate if there is interest. There may be difficulties, difficult periods, and human insecurities. Even so, there is a willingness to talk, adjust, and remain with honesty. On the contrary, prolonged ambiguity wears you down because it keeps you emotionally available without offering direction. The first practical exercise is simple. Stop interpreting and start recording facts. Do not write what you imagine the person feels. Write down what they actually do. Observe the frequency. Perceive the coherence. Also consider how you feel after each interaction. Calm is different from euphoria. Peace is not the same as temporary relief. Many addictive bonds offer emotional peaks. The person pulls away, you suffer. They return for a few moments, and your body feels relief. That relief seems like love, but it may just be the momentary end of an anguish that the relationship itself feeds. Do not confuse the interruption of pain with happiness. By accepting that you do not control anyone's heart, you do not lose power. You recover the only power you always possessed, to choose how you are going to conduct your own life in the face of reality. Perhaps the person stays. Perhaps they leave. It may be that they change. There is also the possibility of continuing exactly as it is. None of these possibilities has to destroy your inner structure. Tell yourself firmly, I do not control what you feel, but I remain responsible for what I do with what I feel. This posture initiates detachment. You stop fighting against the uncontrollable. You withdraw your energy from the attempt to convince, and you begin to invest in the reconstruction of your own sovereignty. Number 2, Stop confusing intensity with love. Not everything that provokes strong emotions is good for you. A fire is intense. A storm too. Intensity shows strength, but it does not reveal direction. Many people remain trapped because they believe that the size of the suffering confirms the depth of the bond. They think that if it hurts so much, it must be special. If they cannot forget, it must be destiny. If they feel an attraction difficult to explain, they imagine they found something rare. This reasoning feeds dependency. The truth is that disorganized experiences can also be intense. Uncertainty provokes intensity. Rejection activates desire. Distance increases idealization. The lack of clarity keeps the mind looking for an answer. An unstable relationship can occupy more mental space than a healthy relationship precisely because it never offers enough security for you to rest. When there is tranquility, you do not need to spend the day trying to decipher the other. Attachment usually grows in terrains of scarcity. A small demonstration seems enormous when you have received little. An unexpected message creates enthusiasm after days of silence. A basic gesture gains exaggerated importance when you have lived surrounded by doubts. Little by little, your mind gets used to expecting crumbs and transforms each one of them into an event. This creates a cycle: absence, anxiety, return, relief, new absence, another period of suffering. Each repetition strengthens the dependency. You are not only attached to the person, your body has become conditioned to the oscillation. That is why some relationships seem difficult to abandon, even when you know they are bad for you. The reason is not always deep love. Sometimes it is emotional withdrawal. You miss the peaks, you miss the expectation. You miss the feeling of being desired after a period of abandonment. The mind associates that return with the relief of pain and begins to desire again the source that participates in the creation of its own pain. Stoicism asks that you observe the effects, not just the feelings. Does this bond strengthen your character? Have you become more serene? Did your self-esteem improve? Does the relationship expand your life or reduce your world? Do you manage to fulfill your responsibilities with presence? Is there room for growth? These questions reveal more than intensity. Healthy love does not have to lack emotion. There can be passion, desire, and enthusiasm. The difference is in the foundation. When there is respect and coherence, emotions do not demand that you betray yourself. You do not need to live proving your worth. You are not obliged to diminish yourself to avoid the departure. You do not feel that every limit can cost the relationship. Intensity without stability causes wear. Stability without respect is not enough either. The mature bond unites affection, clarity, responsibility, and freedom. Also observe the image you have built of that person. The attached mind usually edits the story. It remembers the good moments clearly and treats the bad ones as accidents. It values promises, but minimizes patterns. It remembers the connection and forgets the confusion. It transforms possibilities into certainties. You no longer relate only to the real person. You start to love a version created by memory and by hope. That idealized version does not contradict you. It always understands. It always returns. It recognizes your worth at the exact moment. It fulfills the future you imagined. The concrete person, however, perhaps has never shown the capacity or will to live that story. Detachment demands that you remove the fantasy from command. Make an honest inventory. Remember what was beautiful without erasing what hurt. Recognize the good moments, but consider the whole. Do not use a few moments of happiness to justify months of anxiety. You also do not need to transform the person into an enemy. Demonizing someone can be another way of remaining trapped. The goal is not to hate. It is to see in the correct proportion. Perhaps a true feeling existed. Even so, emotional truth does not guarantee compatibility. Something may have been important and still be insufficient. It may have been intense without possessing the structure to last. It may have marked your life without being the place where your life should remain. When you understand this, intensity loses the power to present itself as destiny. You stop admiring only the size of the emotion. You start to evaluate the quality of the path. Number 3, discover what that person represents to you. Every excessive attachment points to a previous need. The person may have arrived later, but found a space that was already vulnerable. Perhaps you needed to feel chosen. Perhaps you carried an old feeling of abandonment. You may have spent years trying to prove that you were enough. Perhaps you were tired of feeling invisible. Then someone appears and offers attention. They look at you in a different way. They show interest. They create proximity. They make promises. The experience not only awakens affection, it activates a hope for repair. The person comes to represent something greater. It is not just a relationship. It becomes proof of worth. Confirmation that you deserve to be loved. Possibility of a future. Protection against loneliness. When this happens, the distancing hits deep places. The absence touches old wounds. The silence does not seem just a lack of communication. It seems confirmation that you can be forgotten. The rejection is not interpreted as an individual decision. It becomes a sentence on your worth. The indecision of the other person awakens insecurities that perhaps existed before they arrived. Detaching requires that you separate the person from the symbol. The person is just a human being with flaws, limitations, and their own conflicts. The symbol is the weight you placed on them. When you suffer excessively for a departure, you're often not just crying for the person. You're crying for the feeling of inadequacy that returned. You are crying for the future you had planned and that now disappeared. You are crying for the fear of not finding connection again. The Stoic practice here is self-investigation. Ask yourself, what did this person give me that I believe I cannot give myself? Was it validation? Was it a sense of belonging? Was it the feeling of being interesting? When you identify what the person represented, you discover what you need to build within yourself. If they represented security, you need to strengthen your own base. If they represented validation, you need to work on your self-esteem. If they represented an escape from loneliness, you need to learn to inhabit your own company. You cannot demand that another person carry the responsibility of healing your history. That is a burden too heavy for any bond. When you take back that responsibility, the other person returns to human size. They stop being your savior or your executioner. They become just someone who crossed your path. This diminishes the despair. You realize that you did not lose your worth. You only lost a relationship. You did not lose your future. You only lost a specific possibility. The source of your dignity remains intact, waiting for you to reclaim it. Stop suffering for a life that existed only in imagination. Return to the facts. What did this story really teach? Perhaps it revealed your need for approval. It showed the difficulty of establishing limits. It exposed your tendency to insist where there is no clarity. It may have presented wounds of abandonment. Perhaps it demonstrated that you confuse intensity with compatibility. When the experience is seen as a revelation, its meaning changes. It stops being just a loss. It becomes a mirror. This does not mean thanking prematurely for the pain. Forcing gratitude while you are still hurt creates a mask. First, recognize the suffering. Then, observe. With time, the learning appears. You do not need to invent a beautiful lesson for everything. Some experiences were unfair. People can act irresponsibly. Pain does not automatically transform into a blessing. The power is in what you decide to build afterwards. You do not control what happened. You can decide if the event will produce bitterness or consciousness. perhaps that person did not enter your life to stay. They may have appeared to displace something, break an illusion, show a wound, force you to develop limits. Not every important encounter is eternal. Some are passing through. Others function as a mirror. There are relationships that show who you have not yet learned to be. Insisting that everything that was intense lasts forever is fighting against the nature of life. People change, cycles end, paths separate. The Stoic does not demand permanence of what is transitory. He values it while it exists and accepts when reality changes. This acceptance does not occur without pain. The difference is in not transforming the pain into identity. You lived a loss. You did not become the loss. A story ended. Your life did not end with it. Someone did not choose to stay. This does not mean that you lost all your worth. Also, change the way you name the past. Perhaps you did not lose the right person. You may have been freed from a dynamic that was already consuming your peace. Perhaps the end was not a punishment. It may have opened space for you to rebuild an abandoned part of yourself. It is not about empty positive thinking. Observe the effects. After the initial suffering, did you start to see patterns? Did you create limits that you did not possess before? Did you learn to recognize inconsistency? Did you start to value reciprocity? These changes do not annul the pain. They show that you do not need to waste it. Reinterpreting the story returns movement to what was frozen. It stops being the great event that defines your entire identity. It returns to occupy the place of a chapter. Important, perhaps deep, but still a chapter. The book continues. Number 9, learn to love without possession. The last layer of attachment is possession. It does not always appear as explicit control. It can arise as a secret hope that, because you loved a lot, the other person should stay. You feel that your dedication created a debt. You believe that the intensity of your feeling should produce reciprocity. You think that, after everything you offered, you deserve to occupy a definitive place. But love does not grant ownership over anyone's path. This truth is hard. It is also liberating. The other is a free consciousness. They possess desires, fears, limits, and contradictions. They can choose a path that does not include you. This choice can hurt without transforming you into someone without worth, nor does it automatically transform the person into a villain. Sometimes there is incompatibility. In other cases, a lack of maturity. There may be a mismatch of priorities. Some stories end because the two cannot build in the same direction. The ego prefers simple explanations. It desires culprits. It wants to believe that if you demonstrate enough worth, you will manage to alter the ending. Reality does not offer this guarantee. Loving without possession means respecting the freedom of the other, even when it contradicts your will. This does not demand that you accept disrespect. Freedom is not permission to hurt. You can establish distance. You can close contact. You can protect your own peace. The difference is in not spending your life trying to force someone to be what they do not desire or cannot be. Letting go is not devaluing the feeling. It is recognizing limits. You may have loved deeply and still choose not to remain in a situation that destroys your stability. You can wish someone well without accompanying every step. You can forgive without reopening access. You can recognize what was beautiful without transforming nostalgia into an altar. Mature love does not demand permanent suffering as proof of authenticity. You do not need to remain trapped to demonstrate that you were true. You do not need to reject new possibilities to honor the past. Moving on is not betrayal. It is respect for the life that continues. Forgiveness participates in this process. Forgiving the person for not having met your expectations. Forgiving life for not having followed the imagined script. forgiving yourself for having insisted beyond what was necessary. Perhaps you ignored signs. You may have confused crumbs with hope. Perhaps you humiliated yourself. Perhaps you returned several times. Self-punishment does not undo these choices. Consciousness can prevent repetition. Without forgiveness, attachment changes form. It becomes resentment. You stop desiring presence, but you continue desiring revenge. You expect the person to suffer. You fantasize a repentant return. You want them to recognize your worth too late. This still keeps the other in the center. Forced indifference is not freedom either. The true opposite of attachment is wholeness. You fit inside yourself again. You do not need to diminish the other. You do not need to be chosen to feel real. You do not desire to possess, nor do you accept being possessed. Perhaps one day you will manage to sincerely wish that the person follows the path they need to follow, not because what happened stopped mattering, but because you no longer need to control their destiny to protect your own ego. This peace is not born immediately. It matures. At first, perhaps you only choose not to attack. Then, you stop accompanying. Later, you perceive that you no longer expect repentance. At some point, the person's life stops being the central theme. You did not erase the past. You only returned freedom to both. Loving without possession is allowing presence to be a choice. When someone stays, they remain because they desire to build. When they leave, you suffer, but you do not try to hold on. This form of love demands inner strength. Only someone who possesses their own center manages to open their hands without feeling that they disappear. Number 10. Return to occupy the center of your life. Detaching from someone is, above all, returning to oneself. During attachment, the person occupied too much space. Your mood depended on them. Your thoughts revolved around their movements. Your future seemed linked to their decision. You were leaving the center empty and handing the place over to another consciousness. The last step is to return. Not to become selfish. Not to believe that you do not need anyone. You return to reassume responsibility for your own mind. The center of your life must be occupied by values, purpose, and consciousness. People can walk by your side. None of them should control your structure. Ask who you desire to be after this experience. Do not ask only how to forget. This question keeps the other as a reference. Ask how to never abandon yourself in the same way again. This change of focus alters the process. You stop measuring progress by the number of times you remember. You start to observe the quality of your own choices. Are you protecting your limits? Did you return to taking care of your body? Do you manage to fulfill commitments? Did you resume projects? Did you learn to stay in silence without running after any presence? These are signs of return. Build a life in which love is welcome, but not sovereign. A life with its own direction. With true friendships, dignified work, moments of solitude, physical care, intellectual growth, service, spirituality. When your existence possesses several roots, a single loss cannot bring down the whole tree. The problem was not loving too much. It was concentrating everything in a single direction. Your attention, hope, identity, desire, meaning. No bond can bear being everything. By diversifying the sources of meaning, you stop transforming a person into the whole world. This improves your next relationships. You enter them to share, not to be saved. You manage to admire without idealizing. You desire presence without begging. You value reciprocity. You perceive inconsistencies earlier. You do not need to accept confusion to feel intensity. Your pattern changes because you changed. The return to the center also implies trusting your own perception again. Perhaps during the relationship, you ignored discomforts. You accepted explanations that made no sense. You doubted yourself to preserve the image of the other. Now you need to rebuild that trust. When something seems disrespectful, observe. When a limit is violated, recognize it. When actions contradict words, do not invent automatic justifications. Lucidity protects. You do not need to become suspicious of everyone. Just stop abandoning obvious signs to maintain pleasant fantasies. The one who manages to say no occupies the center. The one who knows how to walk away. The one who does not negotiate dignity for attention. The one who understands that peace is a criterion, not a luxury. Perhaps the person still appears in your memory. This does not mean they occupy the center. A memory can exist without possessing authority. Some days will be more sensitive. Certain dates may squeeze. A song may awaken something. Healing does not demand amnesia. It demands removing the command. When you remember and continue the day, there is freedom. When you feel and do not humiliate yourself, there is maturation. When the story remains in the past without defining the future, the return has occurred. The person who seemed enormous begins to diminish, not because they changed. You changed position inside yourself. While you were away from your own center, any attitude of theirs seemed absolute. Now you possess a base. What previously determined your state becomes just a part of the experience. You return home. Not to a physical home, to the home of consciousness. That inner place where your dignity does not need witnesses, where your peace does not depend on messages, where you recognize your own worth before any external choice. The climax of freedom. Imagine waking up on a normal morning. The name of that person still exists in your memory. You did not lose the memories. You did not erase what you lived. Even so, something is different. Your first impulse is not to grab your cell phone. You do not feel the need to look for signs. The silence no longer seems like a threat. The absence stopped commanding the environment. You prepare the day. You fulfill your responsibilities. You talk to someone. You work. Perhaps the memory appears for a few seconds. Then it goes away. Without a fight. Without despair. Without obedience. That is real detachment. It is not a dramatic scene. There is no announcement. Freedom arrives discreetly. You perceive that the person no longer defines your mood. You understand that you can remember without reliving. The past exists, but it does not demand continuation. Perhaps for a long time you believed you needed a final gesture, an explanation, an apology, a return, a confirmation that you were important. Now you perceive that your dignity does not need that authorization. You know what you lived. You recognize what you felt. You also see the price you paid. You do not need to continue suffering to prove anything. There comes a time when the soul asks for an enough. Not an enough moved by anger. Not that proud speech created to provoke a reaction. It is a serene enough. You get tired of transforming crumbs into hope. You stop calling silence a mystery. You stop interpreting distance as a test. You do not use suffering as proof of love. This enough represents self-respect. You admit that losing a bond hurts. Losing yourself costs more. Perhaps you reduced your demands to avoid the absence. You accepted little clarity, little presence, unstable reciprocity. You offered understanding for attitudes that only increased the confusion. You did it because you imagined that being without the person would be unbearable. Now you know another truth. You bear it. You do not just survive. You can grow. Your life does not end where a story hurt. There is identity after dependency. There is peace after obsession. There is a version of you beyond this crossing. It is not colder. It is more conscious. It did not lose sensitivity. It learned limits. It is still capable of loving, but it no longer uses love as a justification to abandon itself. When you reach this point, your criteria change. You stop admiring everything that destabilizes. You start to value coherence, presence, clarity, reciprocity. You discover that being chosen with tranquility is worth more than being desired in the midst of ambiguity. You perceive that a bond does not need to keep you anxious to seem deep. Love can have warmth without destroying the structure. It can bring enthusiasm without demanding permanent fear. It can bring closer without imprisoning. You no longer look for someone to fill an abyss. You build bridges inside yourself. When you meet another person, you offer company, not neediness transformed into a demand. Your affection stops being a request for salvation. It becomes a choice again. Perhaps there are still emotional relapses. A difficult day, an unexpected memory, a desire to check. Do not transform this into failure. The path is not a straight line. The mind tries to return to what it knows. The important thing is the direction of the choices. Freedom does not mean never feeling again. It means not transforming the feeling into a chain. You continue choosing.